with what I meant to say. And when I try to make sense of it all, I get lost in the moment and let the moment slip away. There's something about the words you say, I hear them when you're not around. And there's something about that look in your eyes and your voice's sound. Well, we can leave this town, pretend that that's the problem, and we can live without, or we can live without. And then you tell me, someday it's alright with me. I'm always the last one to know that.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Hey Blue, we are the Baseball Umpires podcast for umpires by an umpire. We are more than just balls and strikes and outs and safes. Listen in for tips, rule interpretations, equipment and attire reviews, interviews with umpires of all levels, and some funny stories that might come up every time out on the baseball field. If you're new to the field as an umpire or a seasoned vet in the world of umpiring, then this is the podcast for you. Hey Blue, the Umpire Podcast is part of the 1420 Sports Bar group of podcasts on the Belly Up Network. All right, Hey Blue, the Umpire Podcast for umpires by an umpire. Haven't done one of these in quite some time. A little bit busy on the field for those who saw the trailer earlier on today, but lots going on in the world of baseball here in Southern Alberta, in Montana State, where we're heading in next. Where I'm heading next month for regionals. We'll get into that in a little bit. But everybody's busy in the world of baseball, so a lot going on, a lot of situations that arise, a lot of conversations that have been had with me and other umpires, people reaching out that I've never met before, and thought we'd get another show out here and get the word of umpiring out there and get some conversation started. That's how we can improve not only ourselves out on the field, but also our partners and other people, younger people in the great art of umpiring. Today's show is brought to you by Caldera Lab and calderalab.com, the best in men's skincare. Go to calderalab.com, use promo code 1420lab for 20% off their men's skincare products in these hot summer days. You can definitely take care of those wrinkles, fine lines, and dry skin the whole bit with Caldera Labs. And remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great sports articles and more great podcasts you can listen to while you're on the road or getting ready to go. And remember, the Hey Blue podcast, part of the 1420 Sports Bar group of podcasts. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. We got everything going on. Another side project we got going on here at 1420 World Headquarters. Anyways, the other night I got a message from my sister. I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday night. It doesn't much matter what night of the week it was. She's out on Vancouver Island, and she was at a West Coast League baseball game. The Nanaimo Night Owls and the Apple Sox or Wenatchee. I can't remember. It doesn't matter much who it was. But the score was 18-1 at one point when the game finished, and she was a little bit upset with the flow of the game and the way it went. And she kind of, because she knows I'm an umpire and everything else. She had a comment about game management and how the umpire was kind of still calling the same strike zone. It was dragging things out a lot. I mean, you can always leave, but my sister's one of those people to never leave a live sporting event because you never know what you might see. No matter what the score might be, you might see something great, so she stays to the bitter end. But she made a very good point that there was no game management, and the umpire was dragging things out when she kind of felt that it didn't have to go that way. And before we get to what people think about this, and that we'll get to that in half a second as well. But I kind of got to the point like, why? Geez, these college baseball or summer college games, sometimes, yeah, they do drag. Sometimes the pitching isn't there and everything else, and things can go sideways. And most people have jobs midweek. They don't want to get be at a ballpark till 11 o'clock at night watching a game that's 18-1 and everything that might happen. And you get a lot of us umpires who have secondary jobs and thirdary jobs, if that's the proper word, thirdary. But there's other things you can probably be doing, like getting some sleep or hitting the highway a little bit earlier to make sure you get home safe and sound. and the like. But I remember that as I was in mid conversation with Elaine about the West Coast League, I remember that they have Pitch Tracker, Stat Tracker, or whatever you want to call it. They Zone Track, whatever software they are using. And I remember that they were talking about that before the season started, that was part of the league out there this year, and that there were some umpires that were a bit concerned before the season started with what their stats were going to be. And I got to thinking maybe that was one of the reasons why an umpire would want to drag a game out that goes that long. There's some guys who are quite concerned about that. There are guys who are quite concerned about their own stats, and they're trying to move on to other levels. I understand that, and they want to make sure that their stats are good and their evaluators see this, that, and the third. But to me, it kind of takes away from the I don't want to say the integrity of the game, but the flow of a baseball game. A baseball game is a bit of a dance. The first 3 innings are a feeler. 4, 5, and 6 are kind of you're grooving a little bit, and 7, 8, and 9 is the crescendo and the end of it. And when you see baseball games drag on, it's quite disturbing at times, because you know what? When a game is 18-1 or 12-1 or 15-2 or whatever the score may be, when it's a blowout, when there's no mercy rule, I guess is the proper way of saying it. You don't know when that game is going to end, and you don't know if it is going to end. And sometimes you feel like you're out there for way longer than you need to be or than you should be and everything else. And I'm going to let you know on a little secret here, kids. When the score is 18-1 in the 7th or 8th inning, there isn't one person who wants to be at that ballpark anymore, whether it be a coach, whether it be a player, whether it be a manager, whether it be a parent, concession workers, umpires, and the like. When the score is out of hand and you can tell the game is over and the outcome is not changing, there isn't anyone who wants to be there any longer. When a game is a 12-11, that might be taking a little bit longer. You don't know about you don't feel the time frame as much, because there's still an outcome of a game. The outcome's not determined, everything else. So it adds to, like, when a game is going that long and things are going sideways and you can feel it going sideways, it can really be a downturn on the game of baseball, and it can have a thing that won't bring people back to another game for quite some time, because baseball, as I've said, I'm a baseball purist nonetheless. I'm a baseball dork right through and through, but sometimes baseball can get quite a bit boring, and when the score is a runaway like that, it can ruin the game for a lot of people and not make you want to come back for the next game, and the like. It's a bad thing that sometimes umpires get into that they think that they're bigger than the game, that their stats are more important than a baseball game. And then you hear guys, well, if it's not a strike in the first, why is it a strike in the 9th? Well, you know what? I hate to break it to you guys, it just is. That's the way the game of baseball is. And I've always thought that, you know, it's I understand why there is instant replay, and I understand why it has been instituted, and I have my own conspiracy theories about that, and I understand the likes of why people want to have the here's the strike zone and everything else. And I'm not saying call nose to toes and dugout to dugout. I'm not saying that at all when it comes to calling a baseball game in a blowout situation. I'm not saying that you should blow calls, because I don't think if a guy is safe or out, that's a lot different than having a pitch called a strike. It's a lot different when it comes to you can't just make up a guy not catching a fly ball, right? It's one of those things. But I really believe that sometimes you can expand your strike zone and get things moving a little bit to get that game done and get that game over with, and nobody wants to be there anymore. And a lot of times when a team is on the upper end of the blowout, they don't want to be there either, and it can be a bad situation where a guy could get hurt and a guy could get injured in a play that doesn't mean a lot because they're being lax and their mind's not in it anymore, and it can cause a lot of problems. And then when a game gets to a blowout situation, sometimes the negative testosterone comes out, and the longer you stay out in the field, the more of a chance you have of a situation breaking out between the team that's getting blown out and the team that's winning a little bit, because the chirping can happen and the like, and it can turn into a bad situation. So when games get to that point, I don't think it's a bad idea to try to get the game over with, have some conversations with both teams, with both managers, and then kind of just say things a little bit. Say, hey, you know what? Let's open the zone up a little bit, because I've had coaches at the American Legion level this summer say, you know what? I don't mind if we open things up. I say, oh yeah, I'm well aware how this can work out. And even a few years back in the WCBL, I had there was a game. I'm not going to say what town it was in, but there was a game coming up, and I knew one of the players a little bit. We became, I wouldn't say friends, but we became friendly throughout the season and throughout the college baseball season where I said, hey, man, you might want to think about swinging. He goes, oh, no, I get it. I totally get it. Let's get out of here and call it good because it's this game's boring. It's already 10:45 at night. We got to get back to where we're from. I almost disclosed where it was from, but it's one of those things you really want a kid and the teams to understand what's going on prior to doing it and not just having a surprise that you're opening the zone up. And when it gets to that point where both teams know that it's at that point, they'll let you know a little bit. A couple times throughout the season with different leagues that I've worked, whether it be high school, whether it be college, whether it be WCBL, American Legion, whatever it might be, you hear a lot of times that coaches will even yell out a little bit, hey, get some feel for the game. The score is this, the score is that. You might want to open things up, and that borderline pitch that you're not calling a strike for whatever reason. And I've never really understood that if it's borderline, you're better off to call it a strike to begin with. Have the zone big because everybody starts to swing the bat a little bit more. I'm not saying break the rules. I'm not saying break the integrity of the game, but we'll talk about that in half a second too, about this quote unquote integrity of the game, because that gets changed whoever's talking about it. But the thing is, when you have those borderline pitches that you're not calling strikes, they can come back to haunt you later on in the game. So it's important, I think, to have that zone and have those borderline strikes, call them strikes early, because later on in the game, when you do want to open things up, it's not a big surprise to anybody and the game gets rolling. And I've said it here on the Hey Blue podcast before, and I've said it at our at the baseball, the umpire clinics throughout the winter. Now we're getting into the middle of summer, and I've talked to different players throughout baseball and different coaches, managers throughout baseball, that when you start calling strikes to start the game off, you're going to put yourself in a better spot, and you're going to put yourself in a better situation where the pitch is ready to go, and he'll start work a little bit faster. He'll get used to throwing strikes. The hitter's going to be up there. He's going to get used to swinging the bat a little bit more, and then the catcher's going to want to work fast, and the umpire's going to want to call in strikes as well. So you get that flow going, because that's what you kind of want as an umpire. It's kind of funny that people talk about this integrity of the game out of one side of their mouth, but in the other side of the mouth, one of the main things you talk about after a baseball game, and this is umpire wide. This isn't just a Southern Alberta thing. This isn't just a WCBL thing. This isn't American Legion. It's not Little League. It's not just a Lethbridge, Alberta thing. It's right throughout baseball in general with umpires. One of the things umpires pride themselves in a lot is the length of their games and how quick they can get some done. There's this magical number that an apex you want your game to be, and nobody's ever set this, but there's always not I don't want to say there's a race, because it's not. I don't want to say there is a competition, because there's not, but there's always a sense of pride in yourself when your game got done at, like, say, a 9-inning game got done in 2 hours and 12 minutes, or 2 hours and 15 minutes, whatever it might be. And then you kind of get a chuckle out of the ones that when you're driving home, or you're in the local establishment after the game, you're going through point streak or whatever, watching some games still going on, and you're on your second or third beer for the night after the game, and you're kind of laughing at your brothers in around the league that are still working games 3.5 hours later, because it can happen. And it's not the umpire's fault. It's not the coach's fault. It's not player's fault. It becomes a kind of a group effort at that point. But so when people say that the integrity of the game gets lost because you open your zone up a little bit, I don't think it does at all. I think it's just part of the way the game is played. And then having a little bit bigger, it can get things going. Nobody goes to a baseball game to see walks. It's the most boring part of the game. It drags the game on quite considerably, and no one likes to see that at all. No one likes to see the ump show and everything else. So it's important to have a good, consistent zone early, and having it a little bit bigger will save you a lot of headaches later on when you might miss one here and there. And I think you'll get a lot more respect from a guy, from a coach, from a manager when you do have a zone that's a little forgiving more to the pitcher side than the hitter side. It's one of those things. Like I said, I'm not saying go nose to toes and dugout to dugout, but having something that is fair and equal to both sides, it can get you out of a little bit of trouble later on, because you say, listen, that's a strike. I called that one on them last inning too, and you'll get a lot more respect from the catchers, and the catchers will help you out later on as well with that coach, if something does, if you do miss one here and there, because it does happen no matter who you are. And as far as this integrity of the game thing that you hear about, and I had a guy talk about, I'm not going to call that a strike, and I said, well, you know what, you weren't just missing the ones that were borderline. You were missing ones that were 100% strikes, throwing it out there, because you get in your own head sometimes. But we'll get that in half a second too. But this integrity of the game things that you kind of get a chuckle about. The highest level of baseball is if people might dispute this, they might say it's the it's the Olympics, or they might say it's that the baseball world championships or the World Cup, whatever they called that back in the spring there. But the highest level of baseball is Major League Baseball, and they sometimes go against this integrity of baseball on their very own at times, and they put guys in who aren't pitchers. And so what's more of a integrity of baseball is that throwing a guy who's not a pitcher, who's only hasn't done it since high school, or is an umpire opening up the zone. I would say that the integrity of the game gets blown a little bit more when you put a guy in who's not a pitcher, and an umpire opening up his zone only helps the game a little bit, in my opinion, because you think about it, all the improvements that baseball's tried to do over the years by opening up the strike zone, by having a pitch clock and everything else, their sole purpose was to speed up baseball games. So why can't an umpire assist that little situation by speeding up baseball games, by opening up the strike zone a little bit? I don't think you'll get yourself in trouble at all. And depending what league you're in and what level you're at and what you might be doing. Like I said, with Little League game, I think you can, like that strike zone. I was actually on a Little League field this weekend calling a U12 or 12 AAA. I don't even know what it was. I just call it Little League. And the strike zone, it's pretty big, and you never hear too many complaints about anything. It was a lot of fun being out there. I want to talk about that in a second too, but it was appreciative that I got out there, and thanks to Lethbridge Little League for reaching out for us, and Travis Oberg for reaching out to me to get me included in that on the weekend, because I think the kids enjoyed having some more experienced guys out there, and but I want to talk about that later on. But there's a way you can go about opening up your zone without making it a mockery of the game. You can say it to a pitcher, you can say it to the catcher, you can say it to the batter coming up, you can say it to the opposing both managers, and just to give a little hand signal. I for one, I tend to go a little bit wider, not up and down a whole bunch when it comes to opening up the zone a little bit, because I think you can kind of mask that a little bit to a lot of people, because like we said before, when you have a pitch that's up or down, people can see that, right? And it's one of those things from the dugout. You don't want to get in a pissing match with those guys because they can't see out inside or outside, but up or down. So that's why I go inside or outside a little bit bigger. That's me personally. I don't know what you guys do out there, but going a little bit wider, you won't get a whole bunch of arguments from people on that, and letting the teams know that here's the intention. Like I said, most teams, when it gets that situation, they will totally understand that it's time to go, and then the game's over. And it's one of those things that you can change the quote unquote integrity of the game. You hear some coaches not want to do it. They get a little upset with you doing it. But one of the things that I go back on and say, well, you guys have changed the way the game is supposed to be played too, because you're not stealing anymore. You're not taking doubles anymore. You're putting this guy here. You're putting that guy there. You're playing station to station baseball, and you're not even trying to score any more runs either. So why don't we even help out this situation even more? So that integrity of the game thing, I don't think holds much water with a lot of people. And I had some guys say, well, my strike zone's my strike zone, I'm not changing it. Well, that's a bit of an arrogant attitude, and that's a bit of a thinking you're bigger than the game situation. I had a couple of guys I've talked to, I wasn't on the field with them, but guys I've talked to that had partners, and it wasn't in leagues that I do, that they were saying my strike zone's my strike zone. I'm only here to improve myself. I'm only here to get to the next level. Well, that's a pretty selfish attitude. And you don't want to hear that from anybody, saying that they're bigger than the game and that they're only there for themselves. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to put it out on the line here that most people who listen to the Hey Blue podcast here on the Belly Up Sports Media Network and the part of 1420 World Headquarters, we're at pretty much the highest levels we're going to get to. We're not in the major leagues yet. We might have some guys who are still aspiring to get there. The younger guys, the Tyler Malakas of the world, who are still looking to go places, and good luck to Tyler when he goes down south later next month. But there's a lot of guys that, you know what, you're not bigger than the game, and you got to learn how to assimilate and to grow the game a little bit and help it out, because an umpire can single-handedly ruin a game and make things worse than they need to be, just by being an arrogant and having those problems. And when you're having a bad night, you need to accept those situations that you haven't had a good night, and not get in a pissing match with coaches and with players, because that will only come back to haunt you. If you think that you're bigger than the game, it'll come back to haunt you really quick. I think 100% of the time, the baseball gods will strike you down no matter what. When you start making calls, when you start doing things and have an arrogant attitude out there, it will come back to haunt you. It's just one of those things that baseball has a funny way of doing things. And like I said, it's it's one of those things that baseball and being an umpire, you will see situations every once in a while you haven't seen before, and to be prepared for those things. And when the ones you haven't seen before, those are the ones that come back and get you. So it's very important to be humble. It's very important to when you get something wrong, is to say, you know what, I got that wrong, and not be afraid to admit a mistake, because we all make mistakes. We all have problems, and we all have games. We all have stuff going on between our ears before we get in the field, and then after we get off the field, there's a lot going on. So it's very important to stay humble and do your job properly, and realize that you're only a cog in the game, and big picture. If you do a really good job, you'll probably get a pat in the back. But if you just do a good job, no one knows who you are. If you do a really bad job, everyone knows who you are. So the best way to is to not draw attention to yourself, and have one of those games and be known as that guy who's not ready to bend a little bit to help the game go a little bit better, and be that guy that helps the game out. Because at the end of the day, it is just a game. It is a lot of fun, but people want to compete and have a good time. And it's one of those things to make sure you're having a good game, and constantly complaining about things like after the game. It's not a good look. And getting in pissing matches with coaches, it's not a good look. And getting in pissing matches with players, it's not a good look, because you know what, there's more of them. Yeah, you can get into a dumping match where you're throwing 10, 15, 20 guys out of a game, and you want everybody to know who you are and why you did it this way, and you're the big boss out there. But at the end of the day, you're going to look like an ass. It's going to come back to bite you, and no one's going to want you out there anymore. And having those problems isn't a good thing. So it's very important to stay humble. It's very important to admit that you made a mistake. It's very important to take some advice now and then. It's very important to maybe look at things a little bit differently, and having a strike zone and having a game that moves a little bit quicker is one of those things that can help you out. Like I said, I'm not saying blow calls. I'm not saying make the wrong calls. I'm just saying change the game a little bit, and learn a little bit of a bend in your break might not be a bad thing. Because I tell you what, it's getting in a pissing match with managers will come back to get you later on in the season, and because they have very short memories when it comes to their problems and their lack of whatever it might be. But it's very important to stay humble when you're out there, and realize you made a mistake, and listening to your partners and having everything going on. It's one of those things that you just wonder why a lot of umpires don't listen to other people's advice. And then after a game, we talk about the before game meetings a lot, and like what you just who's got the ball to the cutout, and who's got this guy, and what are we doing here there in different situations, and how we're going to handle this and how we're going to handle that. The post game mortem, I guess, is one way of putting it. That is just as or more important than anything else. And we talked about it a little bit a few months ago about the post game report. And the biggest thing that I want to get out there to, I'm on my phone all the time too, part of the podcast world and everything else. But the biggest thing post mortem and post game is to stay off your. I'm going to swear here for all you virgin ears out there. The biggest thing for a while when you're sitting in the locker room having a beer, whatever it might be, is to stay off your fucking phone. Listen to what your partners have to say. Listen to what's fresh in your mind and their minds as well, because that's the best advice you're ever going to get. You see a lot of guys that go right to their phone. They want to talk to this, that, or the other person. They want to talk to different people if they watch the game on whatever streaming service it might have been, or if they heard situation or wonder what this game was or that game was. If you want to get better as an umpire, use the people that are in your dressing room, your locker room, back of the car, parking lot, wherever you get dressed prior to. Use those people to your advantage and ask them questions. When you go to your phone and go to a friend, go to a mentor per se that didn't watch the game, all you're doing there is you're looking for someone to pat you on the back and justify your yeah but. Your yeah buts don't mean anything to anybody. It doesn't mean nothing, because you know what? You made mistakes. If you're reaching out to somebody, that means you screwed something up. If you had a bad situation where both teams are yelling at you and giving you shit throughout the night, guess what? That's on you. You had a bad game. So reaching out to other people doesn't do you any good. Listen to the people who are in your inner circle at that moment, because if you're looking out to people who are going to just pat you on the back no matter what, you aren't going to get any better. You need to listen to your people who worked that game with you, because they were there. They're the ones who can say you weren't doing this right, you weren't doing this right, you weren't doing that right. Yeah, here's some things you did right as well, but But you need to listen to your partners, because they will be more honest to you than your yeah but buddies, right? Your yeah but buddies aren't going to tell you the truth, because in general they probably didn't watch the game, or they kind of had it on, or whatever it might have been. The people who are in that locker room immediately after the game are the ones you need to befriend for that 15-20 minutes after a game. That will help you a lot more, and you'll get a lot more positive or negative feedback, but feedback that's going to help you out on what's going on. Getting mad about the situation, being a jerk to yelling about the other team, yelling about this manager, that manager. Yes, we all do it, and we have some funny conversations about what might have happened. But being a guy who's looking for positive reinforcement from everybody will not make you a better umpire. It will not make you a better official, no matter what sport. It will not make you a better player. So you need to it's very important. You need to ask and listen to your partners after a game, because they are the ones that will be brutally honest about your performance that day. If you are out of position, they will let you know, because that puts them out of position and puts them in a precarious situation. If you had a bad strike zone, your partners will let you know, because they're the ones that got to listen to it as well all game long, and they're the ones that got to deflect the criticism and deflect the situations that happen on a minute-to-minute basis out there, because you get so inside your own head, you don't know what's going on when you have a really bad game. And the periphery of not just the strike zone, but the rest of it. When you're having a bad night, listen to your partners, take a walk, listen to your partners more than anybody. The yeah butters, man, it doesn't help you out at all. It will never help you out. It will never get better if all you do is listen to those guys, because they will not help you at all. And the ones that are your buddies throughout the season, I'll tell you right now, when something goes sideways, they better be the ones that are telling you how bad you were, or even how good you are, whatever it might be. But you better listen to your partners, because they're the ones that might get you out of a situation later on throughout the season. But if you're a guy who just pushes things off and think you did no wrong and it's everybody else's fault, you're not the kind of partner that I want to be around. You're not the kind of guy that anybody wants to have around in their locker room, because you don't know what kind of feedback you're giving the other umpires or the other team, the guys the opposing teams that you're out there with, because it's a situation where you see a lot of guys just don't have that within them to hear any criticism. They think they can do no wrong, so that's why they reach out to people who will tell them how great they are, and that doesn't do you any good at all. And reaching out to people, it doesn't help things at all. Listen to the guys who are there with you on the field, because they get the most feedback from the other people who are on the field. They get the more feedback than you do from the two base coaches. If you first and third situation, if you're working a three-man, they will give you more feedback. Hopefully your partners don't sewer you to those coaches and to those players, but in general, it's one of those things where you do need to give feedback, whether it be negative feedback, no matter what. Like it's one of those things. If like I would hope that if I had a bad game or blew a call, that I'm told I blew that call, or if I had a bad game in the plate, I would hope that somebody would say, you know what, you had a horse shit night tonight, no matter what. I'm usually the first one to admit if I have a bad night on the plate, and I'll say, yeah, I probably missed that one, or yeah, I was a little bit big on that one. But I would hope that somebody would have the wherewithal in their head to tell me how bad I was, and just one of those things, and not in a joking matter, and then maybe have a solution as to what was going on. It's crazy how you get a lot of guys who want to just yeah, but. It doesn't help the game at all. It doesn't help you grow your game. It doesn't help you improve. So it's very important to be honest with yourself out there. It's very important to be honest with your partners. It's very important to have the thing, and that's part of the partner management. It's part of your game management. It's all part of everything, because like I said earlier, when you have a bad night, you better know, because when everybody's yelling at you, when both sides are yelling at you, that means you're having a horse shit night, and you were horse shit that night, and you probably deserve to hear it, because every umpire will tell you how great they are, but they very rarely do you hear them say, oh, I had a bad night, when you're sitting around having a couple of adult beverages at the bar when the game's all said and done. So stay off your phone after the game. Quit bad mouthing the two teams. Quit bad mouthing managers. Yeah, well, you can say that guy's this or that guy's that. But it's not a personal thing. We just had a bit of a run in, and there's guys you see him a lot throughout the season. And it's not that you don't like the guy, because in general you never really get to know managers throughout the leagues that you might do. You don't get to know who they are as human beings, and you have a situation where you don't like a guy a little bit. But in general, most guys are probably pretty good guys, and they don't mean any harm. They're just out there competing for their teams or their players or whatever it might be. So bad mouthing those guys, it doesn't do you any good. You can say, yeah, I don't like this guy or that guy, and bring up a situation, but being mad at a guy after the game, because later on you're going to have to see that manager, that player again, and holding a grudge against a guy isn't going to help you at all. It's one guy in the WCBL that we had not a run in, but he said something to me, and the next day going on the field, we kind of had a little conversation. He goes, "No, I let it go every night at midnight, man. I let everything go." I said, "All right, here we go. Let's have a better day today." And then that was it. It's not that we had an argument or anything, but it's one of those things that you got to just let these things go and not let these grudges go on for years and years to come, because life's way too short to hold on to these bad memories. And it's one of those things that you really have to try to work on. And I think that comes a little bit with age too, that you can maybe let go of the grudge a little bit. Yeah, you can say that you don't like this guy or that, whatever it might be. But in general, I think you can kind of let things go the next day and not carry it on. And that's very important, to not let things go on, because it's only going to hurt the umpire. It's only going to hurt the game. It's going to hurt a lot if you hold a grudge and start making calls based on what's between your ears instead of what you saw, because that never helps anybody. It makes the game pretty bad. So it's one of those things that you just wonder, you got to make sure that you keep going out there and calling the game how it's supposed to be called, working hard when you're supposed to work hard, and then taking the criticism you're supposed to take when it needs be, and then managing the game. Because managing the game is, I think it's a lot more important than anything in the game of baseball. I think that's one of my stronger suits in my game management a little bit. How I can say a thing here or there to a manager or a coach, or how I can like, I'm not bragging up. I'm just saying, like, it's one of my. I feel that whoever works for me, they can tell me I'm completely wrong and let me know at 1420 Sports at Gmail, or just send me a text message to tell me how wrong I am. But it's one of my. I think it's one of my strong suits, is managing personalities out there, managing the game, making things hopefully move along a little bit quicker than some guys. That's one of the things I take pride in, is staying out of trouble, not having ejection after ejection after ejection in a game, and maybe I bite back a little bit before they start biting harder at me. So it's one of those things that I take pride in, and if I'm wrong, everybody let me know. But it's one of those things, and I hope you guys people learn that, and I hope that whoever listens to this podcast, they let me know how they manage a game as well. But anyways, that's one of my little rants for today. We'll get into something else here in a second, but let's have a little talk from our friends from Caldera Lab, the sponsor of the Hey Blue podcast. Where are we here? Baseball season is here, and as the sun shines brighter, your skin deserves the utmost attention. Fortunately, our friends at Caldera Lab are here to ensure your skin is well prepared for the season ahead. Ever since I incorporated Caldera Lab into my routine, taking care of my skin has never been simpler. Their products are clinically proven and help visibly reduce wrinkles, fine lines, and signs of aging. You gain confidence in an impeccable first impression this summer. Don't miss out on joining the skincare revolution trusted by countless men. Use promo code 1420LAB at calderalab.com to enjoy an exclusive 20% off their finest products. Their regimen leaves they're off their product lineup, a twice-a-day routine to transform your skin. Inside this bundle, you'll find the clean slate, the base layer, and the good. The clean slate is where you start your day. It's a balancing cleanser that uses gentle plant-based cleansing, leaving all skin types exceptionally refreshed. The base layer is a nutrient-dense, fortifying moisture to hydrate your skin and absorbs fast, leaving you with a matte finish so you can start your day confidently. And the good is a go-to at night before bed, clinically proven serum. So go to what 3 million people have used already. Caldera Lab is made with top-tier ingredients. It's a great addition to your daily routine, taking less than a minute morning and night at Caldera Lab. And avoid being the butt of everyone's joke and take the leap to skin royalty with Caldera Lab and get 20% off with our code 1420LAB at calderalab.com today and elevate your skin game this summer with Caldera Lab. There we go. There's our friends from Caldera Lab. Make sure you guys go out there, protect your skin. Don't just use sunscreen, but get everything else after the game too. So Caldera Labs is the one to help you out today. There it is.
Great moments don't just happen here. They happen with you, in the crowd. Go to StubHub.com and buy the tickets you want, even if the event is sold out. Or sell your tickets on StubHub.com and share an experience that will live on. For that next great moment, go to StubHub.com. Our Fan Protect guarantee ensures your tickets are authentic and on time every time. Great moments start at StubHub.
All right, there's our newest sponsor here at the 1420 World Headquarters. That's StubHub. Go to StubHub.com, right? But click on our personalized link. It'll be up in the show's notes. It's also on all our social media accounts and everything else. But go there and save yourself some money for any tickets you're going to at StubHub, whether it be baseball tickets, hockey tickets for the upcoming season, Taylor Swift tickets, whatever it might be. Go to StubHub, one of the best ticket brokers out there. You can sell some tickets to and everything else. But anyways, as the season progresses and things get going on, you run into people that you may not have met before. You run into people that you may not have wanted to meet before. You may not have or worked before, and you might run into some really good guys that it comes up about to be. But it's very important that you get a rapport with these guys, whether it be for a weekend, whether it might be just one night, but it might be for just a season, or it might be something or that who knows how long it could be. But it's very important to get along with your partner, and again, not like we're not all rainbows and unicorns. Let's not kid each other. It's impossible to think that everyone's going to like each other in this world, and every person who puts on a black jersey or a blue jersey and some gray pants and runs around there and waves your arms and yell a little bit, that everyone's going to get along and be on the same page a whole bunch. But there's some things that I kind of been thinking about for a few years now. When you get in the umpire room and you just wonder what the heck's going on, you kind of have a laugh about some things, and you go, what the hell is going on, and who's this guy that I'm with, and who's that guy that I'm with. And in general, most guys are pretty good guys, and you have a common bond in umpiring. It's something that you want to do, and it is something that you do both like, because to get to a upper echelon of baseball, you do definitely have to have a passion for the game of baseball, and a definite passion even more so for the fine art of umpiring. And it's one of those things, but you can always tell sometimes when a guy isn't that kind of guy and isn't really there for anybody but himself. And it's too bad that we still get guys out there that are like that. And it's too bad that we do run into situations where you're like, oh, like Christ, here we go again with something that might have happened. The one thing that I kind of noticed a lot is I don't care what your resume is. I don't care, like later on after the game, maybe we can talk about if first time we've ever met or something. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what tournament you've done. I don't care. And maybe that's just a me thing where you hear it all the time and you hear this and that. But when guys tend to give you their resume prior to a game, they're maybe making up for their misgivings a little bit. And they want some positive reinforcement that, yeah, I was here and you weren't, and I did this tournament and you didn't. And they're just looking to do something maybe, and they're looking for a little bit of swagger in their stuff that they probably don't get on their own. And it's kind of one of those things that's, it's a little bit annoying when guys are constantly giving their resume and name dropping and everything else. Do you know this guy? Do you know that guy? You're like, right on, man. Like, it's whatever. Talk about game situations 100%. Talk about whatever was going on 100%. But you don't constantly got to be saying, I went here, I went there, I'm going here, I'm going there. You can have a conversation about things you've done 100%. But it gets kind of old, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Get back to me on the comment section. It'll be up on Facebook later on and everything else. But it's one of those things that you go, what the heck is this guy going about? Like, I don't need this bragging thing. Maybe it's me getting old. I don't care. I guess it's one of those things, because I really don't. When you hear all these things, because my most important thing prior to a game is making sure we go out in the field and we're doing the good job for that game that we're going to do at that moment. And hearing about a guy's past misfortunes or past ejections and how many ejections, it's one of those things I don't understand. And guys, when they start bragging about how many ejections they got, like they're notches on the bedpost, I don't really understand why they would be bragging about that. And it's just not every time there's an ejection that an umpire screwed up, because that's not 100% true. But it can be that a manager is right sometimes. They don't deserve to get ejected. It is true that sometimes a coach or a player is right and they didn't deserve the ejection. A lot of times an umpire screwed up, and they usually throw guys out because they're the ones who screwed up. Not all the time, but sometimes umpires do make mistakes and guys end up getting ejected because of those situations. It's one of those things you got to watch how you're wording things and how you're saying things in the locker room, because you don't want to be known as that red ass umpire right off the bat. You don't want to have the eye roll coming from your partner, like, what the hell did I get myself into? So when you first start meeting a guy, the best thing you could possibly do is going out there, doing your job properly, working hard, and doing things you're supposed to be doing. No matter what level you're doing, it's very important that, or what the score in a baseball game is, to make sure you're working hard and doing things you're supposed to be doing, and not that fake work hard, but running out on things you shouldn't be running out on. Not for fake work in this. It's the things, the little things that help the game right. Other things that make me, like, when I hear guys talking about, this kind of talk about those little league games I did over the weekend. When you hear guys in other communities who come in to help you out for tournaments, for district tournament like we have coming up in Vauxhall for American Legion next weekend, when you hear about things like that, when guys help out for the lower levels of baseball, they might think that they're too good for, when they go out there and they help out with games, it's that stuff impresses me more. When they get calls from the organizations or their umpire associations, they go out and they do games that maybe they're overqualified for, but sometimes people get in a little bit of a they're scrambling for umpires and everything else. It's very important to help out with those things. And when you hear guys saying about, I did a little league game, or I did a U15 game that maybe I shouldn't have done, or that should have had somebody else. But when umpire, like when little league organizations or whatever, Baseball Alberta or Baseball Canada or whatever state thing you have, when they make a call for an umpire, sometimes volunteering your time to go out there and help out there, that's not the worst thing in the world, because the kids enjoy it. The other umpire you might be working with might enjoy it, and they might learn something, and it'll get you back to your grassroots and give back a little bit to the community. So that kind of stuff impresses me a lot more than telling me what tournament you got and what provincial tournament or state tournament or whatever you're going to. When you hear about guys helping out, that's more of a notch on the bedpost, like I said earlier, than anything else. It's those ones that it's that stuff that impresses me. It's the little things that impress me. Is when you get in the locker room and the baseballs are already rubbed up, or they're already in the process of doing it, because they're just sitting there doing nothing, and they're doing it even though they're the plate guy. They just volunteer to do it, and they help out. It's the things like that where they might take the balls out, or they might go get you some water, or go get to, or bring water or whatever. It's those little things that I really think make an umpire a better person and a better team member than the guy who tells you about where he's been and where he's going and everything else, because nobody likes a braggart no matter where you are in life. You can be proud of what accomplishments you have. Yeah, you can be proud of what accomplishments might be coming up, but thinking about the game and the partners you're with, that's the most important thing of the season to that point. And having the rest of that BS, nobody cares, man. Nobody cares that you did this, you did that, because you know what? Everybody's done it. Everybody knows this guy. Everybody knows that guy. Everybody knows a different person that you might not know. So bragging about these things and name dropping all the time, I don't understand it. Nobody cares. Go out and call the game and have a good time doing it, and make sure you work hard, because that stuff that stuff will leave more of a lasting impression than blowing a call in the 8th inning because you were too busy looking in the stands for whoever you were talking about, right? So that'll leave more of a lasting impression to me, is making sure you're doing your job right, because in general, I won't remember. I mean, because I'm getting old, I guess, but I won't remember what tournament you told me you're going to a year ago, or where you might be going next month. It's one of those things. But remember that you're there for your team, which is your two partners or your one partner at that moment, and that's the most important hour and a half or 2 hours that you can have. And worrying about something that's 2-3 weeks or a month down the road, that doesn't mean anything to your partner at all at that moment. Your partner wants you to be out there, giving the best you can be, doing the best job you can do, making sure you're in position at the right time, and worrying about something that doesn't mean anything for that 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, or if you open the zone up, like I said, that hour and a half, that's the most important thing. So being a braggart out there doesn't help anything. So maybe, sometimes it's just more important to keep your yap shut. Go out, work the game, and have some laughs over some beers. Talk about some situations you may have had. I don't brag a whole bunch about ejections, because, like I said, ejections are kind of one of those things where it might not be a good thing that you threw a little Billy out of a game because you're the one who screwed up. Maybe eating a little humble pie sometimes isn't the worst thing an umpire can have, because humble pies, it can come around pretty quick, like I said earlier. And as we wrap up the baseball season, I know a lot of teams are wrapping things up, and a lot of leagues are wrapping things up, and there's elimination games, there's zone tournaments coming up, and everybody's got them. Like I said, we have our district tournament for American Legion here coming up this weekend in Vauxhall, Alberta, that I'm happy to be a part of. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, but it's very important that right now, and then like your summer wood bat leagues are wrapping up right now. It's very important to remember that these games are starting to mean a lot to a lot of people for different reasons. For the Legion tournament I'm doing next weekend, this is probably going to be the last time some of these kids ever play the game of baseball at a competitive level. It's very important to remember that this next weekend, it's very important to remember that a lot of kids, this is the last time their parents are ever going to watch them play baseball, something they've been doing for the last 13 or 14 years of their lives, that parents have been putting the time and money in and traveling around and having a good time and remembering the good times. But there's going to be people who are a little revved up. There's going to be people who are a little twisted and turned, and it's going to be a little bit rough for some people to see that. So emotions are going to run high. And even at the college baseball, college wood bat league, there's guys who played for a long time, played at a high level, played in college. I know WCBL, you can play even after your last year of eligibility, but there's guys who are their baseball careers are wrapping up and they're never going to be baseball players again after about 2.5 weeks from now. That'll be it for a lot of these guys who thought they were going to have long careers. It's all coming down to the end. So there's going to be guys who are a little revved up. There's going to become guys who are going to be a little anxious. There's going to be guys who are going to be saying things that they don't maybe mean, but it's because the stakes are a little bit higher and because the emotions are going to run a little bit high for everybody, and umpires can be the same way. And we have to remember that we're supposed to be the voice of reason out there, and we're supposed to be the guys who are doing things properly and professionally and not letting those emotions overtake a baseball game. And we're supposed to be the situation where the arbiters per se are the ones who are supposed to look after things. I know it can be hard because sometimes we have guys who are a little bit younger and they're going in the field with got people who are supposed to be grown-ups and they're not at times. It's one of those things that you have to remind the coaches, remind the parents, remind the managers prior to the game that, hey, listen, like, let's not do this. Let's bust it up right before it even gets going, because we don't need that headache. We don't need the hassle, and we don't need the last memory of you on a baseball field being a negative one. You don't want to be the guy who like as an umpire, you don't want to be the guy that somebody talks bad about 5 years from now about a call that you may have made or thrown out of a baseball game when they didn't deserve to be, because you thought you might have heard something. But if you're out there making the right calls and doing the right things, you won't get much backlash. Yes, there are managers and coaches out there who do get backlash no matter what, but it's very important for us as umpires to make sure that we're doing things properly to settle that stuff down before it even starts. Just this past weekend, I was back in my hometown of Fort Macleod doing a Legion game there, double header. And the first game, there was a call at home plate that the umpire, he got 100% right. The ball was there in time, but there wasn't any semblance of a tag, not at all, not one little bit. The ball might as well went over the backstop. That's how close the tag got. The umpire got the call right the whole bit. Third baseman asked me what I thought. I said there was no tag at all. There was a player down or a parent down the line who kept on and on and on about it. And I turned around a little bit. I didn't direct it at him. I didn't say it directly to him, but I said it loud enough for this parent to hear that, hey man, like, shut up. There was no tag on it. Got a little more heated than that coming from me, but it was one of those situations. And the next game I was on the plate, and I brought something up to the head coach that came gave me the lineup card. I said, hey, we need to stop that right now. I said, I don't mind when coaches get a little bit animated, and I don't mind when players get a little animated, because you guys are competing. And I get it that you're in the moment, but I said, we got to stop this parent stuff going on right now. And it's too bad that it still does happen with all the different programs out there that are, and all the publicity that negative parenting gets at sporting events. But it's very important that we make sure that parents aren't doing that. And I told that to this head coach. He goes, yeah. I said, no. I said, you need to make sure before next weekend, because that's who's going to, one of those teams is going to the district tournament in beautiful Vauxhall, Alberta. I said, you need to get a handle on that, not now, but right now, because we're not putting up with that all weekend next weekend, because we'll just start dumping people left and right, and they won't be able to watch little Jimmy or little Hayden or little Braden or Jaden or Zayden or whatever their names are. A lot of Aidens with extra constants in front of their names, but they won't be able to watch their kid play those last games because of their lives, because they were being an asshole and being an idiot. So I let that coach know that that's how it's going to be, and we're going to do that as well. There's a pre-tournament meeting I'm having with different coaches and everything else start before the week's over. And so it's one of those things we're going to reiterate that we're not putting up with that because you're a parent and hold the birth certificate to little Aiden or Jaden doesn't give you the right to be an asshole. And that's one of those things that's going to be. And on our side too, we're having a Zoom meeting tonight that one of the goals of the weekend is to keep everybody in the game all weekend long, not have any ejections. I mean, hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but that's a goal of mine night in, night out when we go on the field, is to keep guys in the game and not have that problem, because it puts a damper on the game. Like I said, some guys get a notch on their bedpost that they have this many ejections, and yes, ejections are part of it. They do happen no matter what. They are needed at times. There's no getting around that. But in general, if you can keep people in the game, that's the most important part. So it's one of those things. Bite back when you need to, guys, over the weekend. Bite back or during the week you have games this week. Bite back, be stern. Don't be aggressive, but be assertive. When you do have a guy questioning you or a guy saying no effing way, bite back a little bit. Don't have a quick trigger. That doesn't do anybody any good, because you're just going to get one or two more people mad at you. So just bite back, say something, be stern, be assertive, but don't be an asshole, because being an asshole doesn't solve any problems to anyone, but make sure you're in position, getting calls right, because that's more important than anything. And before we get going here, it's a tough thing. We travel these roads, and we over the from the winter, spring, summer into the fall, we were always on the road a lot. We do a lot of road games. We do, like, umpires never have a home game is one of the sayings, but a lot of times we go on the roads and we're out there late at night. We lost a partner last week, Northwoods League umpire Connor McKenzie lost his life in a car accident. It's horrible. It's a horrible situation. I don't want to say it's surprising that it doesn't happen more often. One's obviously too many, but drive safe out there, guys. After games, if you get tired, pull over, because if you go over the median or over the center line, whatever it might be the last time you do it. So we lost a partner, and it's a sad day for baseball. It's a sad day for the fraternity of umpires, and condolences to Connor's family and everything else. 29-year-old umpire lost his life far too soon going to a game in the Northwoods League. It's a sorry thing, but one of those. It happened. But to try to make sure you weren't the next one. Obviously, don't drink and drive and all that stuff. But if you're tired, pull over. Maybe make arrangements to stay at somebody's house, get a hotel, wherever it might be. And if you don't got the dough, tell the team you need some accommodations, because I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help you out, because it's one of those things we don't. One is way too many that we lost this summer, and we don't need another one. So make sure you guys drive safe to and from every baseball game. Anyways, have great games this week, guys. It's very important to go out there, get calls right, work hard, do everything you're doing. Don't be the problem, be the solution out there. It's a great time of year for baseball. Games mean a lot. High intensity games, a lot of fun. Little league games yesterday were fun. This one little kid, he used some expletives that I didn't think I was going to hear at Canola Harvest Field here in Lethbridge, Alberta, at about 9:45 on a Sunday morning. This effing glove effing sucks, and he threw it down. I couldn't throw him out of a game, but I was like, hey, you've got to. It's not the glove, man, but it was one of those situations. It was quite funny hearing things all over the baseball field with an 11 or 12-year-old kid. But anyways, have great games week, folks. Like I said, check out our partner Caldera Labs. Go to StubHub. Make sure you get their tickets from their personalized link. The link for our online store, the Hey Blue online store, will also be up in the show's notes. So go to the Hey Blue store, pick something up, and look good going to the field throughout the rest of the remainder of the season. Have great games here. If you're involved in some different tournaments, congratulations. Don't vote it up. Only worry about the games you're going to or that you're at that moment. Don't brag. No one likes those people. And as always, but remember, as always, most importantly, one call is good, two calls are bad. Have a good day, folks, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Bunny some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I never get back, oh, it's root for the whole team. They don't win, it's a shame. Now it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
just listening to the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beer with the sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get in.